Hello.
What's correct? I expect. I don't know. back way nice and slow. Feel the ebb and flow. Please get sucked out to sea. I wonder where you are, 'cause you know I take these things kinda extra hard. This back and forth will take me anywhere I need to be. I can't need you anymore. You're out there, you're on your own, and I can't need you anymore. They say all good things must end, but it's been too long since I've seen one again. It's over now, played your role, now it's time to dissipate. May not get very far, let's be honest, I will never be a star. Holding on, take me anywhere I need to be. Take a good look, 'cause I'll be gone. I can't need you anymore. You're out there, you're on your own, and I can't need you anymore. Tell me I'm wrong, anything to make it easier. Oh, keep your secret songs, 'cause I can't hear them anymore. Oh, tell me when it's all done. Take these memories and burn them all, one by one. 'Cause it's not fair to keep holding on. I can't need you anymore. 'Cause you're out there, you're on your own, and I can't need you anymore. 'Cause it's not fair to keep holding on. Oh, take your words back home, back way nice and slow. Feel the ebb and flow. Please get sucked out to sea. I will believe beyond to be home for me. Try not to undo that which was built all around me. Take it all the way back to the melody. All we want is attack, back where we wanna be, and all we had was our ways about it all. I think you don't know now, but it could be so much better yet. I just need a band to save me. I just need a song without band. I wish somebody would amaze me still, and not make me feel like I'm alone.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Good enough. It looks like Susan either was delayed or forgot or got caught up and forgot the time. So, let's see. What are some of the things that might need to be said? First off, this is the last scheduled tour of the season, although at the moment I am planning on doing a few extras, which will be stream only. Those will be covering the Myst 5 ages. After that, we don't know when the next tour season will begin because it's going to depend on several factors. The first one is that Murphac is always going to be the one who figures out when and if he can participate, because as the operator of the last remaining bot in the game, there are a lot of demands on his time. He gets called up for every special event, pretty much. And secondly, Susan wanted to step down from being tour host at the end of this season because she's got other things that are taking up her time now. With that in mind, we are looking for somebody else to take over the duties of tour host. So if any of you think that you might be interested in the job, let me know. Contacting me on Facebook is one of the easiest ways. Let's see. Next month I should be holding another tour, and I'll want you to meet here in the Cavern Tour hood for it, for chat purposes. Anything else important that needed to be said? I don't know. Let me take a quick look here. Obviously, if you're hearing me, you're tuned into the stream. Okay. Well, that's it. Anyway, I guess we don't have to go through all the formalities. The bot. Let's check and see where he is. Okay, let's go ahead and get started then. Just go ahead and link to Mirabot. Oh yeah, that's one of the things I should have said. If you don't have Mirabot in your buddies, you can add him now. Oops. So just make sure that Mirabot is in your buddies list by typing /add buddy32319 and then PM the word link to him, and that'll get you to our location. Hello, Susan.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
We're all linking to the bot right now.
Alrighty.
Oh, and I forgot to turn on the game window. There we go. Now you can see yourselves. Okay, I just mentioned that today was the final of one of the scheduled tours, Susan. And the fact that we need a volunteer to be host for the next season. Was there anything else that needed to be said?
No. I'll supplement later, but I'm still logging in. But yeah, I'm willing to continue, but it'd be nice to have a backup. So if anyone would like to volunteer, let's get in touch through PM or some other method.
Okay. Anyway, as you can see, today's tour is going to cover Cavern at first, and then we'll be moving on to another location. Cavern is an island located roughly 1,500 Toranti in direction, 811 Shafiti in distance, and negative 72 Shafiti in elevation from the Great Zero. To put that in surface terms, that's about 9 degrees east of the Denis Zero Meridian, about 2.4 miles or 3.29 kilometers, and 910 feet below the Great Zero. That's as measured from the Rotunda, where Atreus the Younger was imprisoned by his sons, Cirrus and Achenar. The Denis Lake waterline is about negative 93 Shafiti below the Great Zero, so that makes the Rotunda about 280 feet or 85 meters above the lake surface. To give you a perspective, that means the Rotunda, it is about as high above the Denis Lake as the roof of a 26-story building would be above the ground. And the ballroom is about 2 to 3 stories lower. And to give you a idea of that, let's see where. Oh, here we go. Oh, there we go. So, if you look at the stream window for a moment, I have a picture up. And that should give you an idea of about how far, the roof of that building is about how far above the lake we are right now. Excuse me. My Windows on my note reading computer decided this would be a fine time to tell me that it wants to restart. Okay. In any case, that places the ballroom and the rotunda where we are high in the stalagmite that the mansion was carved into, and it places the island solidly in the group of islands that are near the Denis city. It also contradicts the map that was drawn by Atreus the Elder for the journey to the surface. His map suggests that Cavern, and I will put up a picture of that, the map section in question. Okay. On this map, Cavern is marked 121. And it's located far to the east of Agra Island, which makes no sense because you can see the Arch of Kurth with Agra behind it from the ballroom window of Cavern. For that to be possible, Kurth's arch would have had to point toward east by northeast instead of directly north, and we know that the arch sits astride the Denis Zero Meridian. Right now I'm going to cycle through some pictures here because I have another one to show you. Here we go. Oops, wrong map. There we go. The map that I currently have up in the stream window is a more accurate representation of how things are related to each other. So as you can see, Cavern is just a little bit to the east of Agra Island and up near the top very near the coastline of the Denis city. I used the map of the cavern from the Great Zero Courtyard as my model. There are probably a lot more islands than are showing on that map, but the Great Zero map is not precise. The placement of Catha Island, a short distance south of Agra Island, is unconfirmed. It was based on information from another explorer who said he had access to documents that showed it in that general area. Cavern was one of many privately owned islands in the Denis Lake. Just like the majority of them, it was carved from a giant stalagmite that was formed on the cavern floor before the water level rose. It's not said when Cavern was first purchased or by whom, but we know that King Emin received requests to sell a large number of lake islands to the public because of the popularity of Faresh's mansion on Catha. The Mystery House, as it was called, was a rich and luxurious building and caused others among the elite to want to do something similar. The request for permission to build mainly focused on a large group of islands off the coastline of the city proper. In 1595, Emin decided to sell many of the islands. The properties in question belonged to the government, but apparently weren't being used for much. According to the King Emin notebook, the government sold more than 23 of the islands within a year of the authorization to do so, and they sold them to wealthy and powerful Denis who could afford the hefty price the government placed on them. There was an exception. Emin donated one of the islands to the Guild of Artists, Musicians, and Actors. They, in turn, built a cultural center on it, and it was used to hold events such as outdoor concerts and stage plays. This allowed guests to attend in boats on the water. However, we don't know what that island was named. Another island that didn't end up as a private residence was called Neref, and may have been named in honor of Denis' founder and its first king, Reneref. That one wasn't due to any action on the part of Emin, though. It was a decision made by his predecessor, King Lablashan. In Denis year 4910, Yablashan announced plans for a new park to be built on Neref. It appears to have been completed by 4914, when 3 new recreation ages were placed in the park as gifts from the Guild of Writers. No information is available that says when the ancestors of Cavern's last owners came to possess it, but it became important in Denis history when it was the residence of Lord Verkery of the Denis Council during the 94th Denis century. Verkery lived there with his son, Voovis. Cavern was heavily modified by its inhabitants over the years, and by the time of Lord Verkery only resembled the original stalagmite in overall shape. Besides excavating chambers and corridors inside the rock, the outside was also shaped and a few areas were leveled. They even carved a series of ramps along the outside of the rock to the upper levels. Some descriptions say that the ramps make the island look like a corkscrew, but that's not quite true since they are only on the eastern side. And I'm going to go ahead and put up a couple of illustrations in the stream window. Excuse me, I've just passed by a good one. That is a artist's impression of what Cavern Island looked like, and you'll notice that there's a dome at the top, which is supposed to be a private linking book library. Okay, excuse me. Somebody named County Down is asking a question I'll answer real quick.
Yeah, they were also mentioning the bird noises. There's a JLAC overlay in here, right?
I don't know if there is or not because I'm not hearing it, but that's another
Yeah,
story. I'm not listening
yeah,
to right.
there's some birds and they're not mine.
Okay, then yes, it's probably Jalak. Okay, let's see. Count. Open to twitch.tv/LWF58. Oh, I'm not. Susan, can you type the stream address in?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Because I accidentally I typed it, but I accidentally sent it to Murabot.
Okay. I don't think he'll respond to that.
Oh, he did all right. He said, "I don't understand it."
There's so much lag. It's going to take me a little bit to arrow up. There we go.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and.
So that's the stream address for Larry's Twitch account. He does archive videos. I think it's for, is it 2 weeks?
That's
after each tour that they stay up?
That's on Twitch. They're actually archived on YouTube.
Yes, they're also archived on YouTube.
And that's permanent.
So all you guys are famous. Everybody wave hi to YouTube, as seen through Larry's eyes.
Okay, anyway. Hopefully that'll get... YouTube doesn't have a simple address, but if you search for...
Larry Fontenot?
Yes.
Or is it Fontenot?
No, it's French.
Okay.
French people are much too cool to pronounce that last T.
By the way, I am, for all YouTubers and you, I am profusely sorry for my tardiness. I overslept. I'm not a morning person. Plus, maybe I wanted to subconsciously to create some drama. No, probably not. Give poor Larry a heart attack.
Something like that, yes.
Aw, I'm so sorry.
Okay, now let's see. While we're at it. Oh, yes. And here is an overall map of what Cavern looks like from above. Also in the stream window.
So that conical shaped thing at the top left. See, I can see the word book room.
Yes, that is the this is an overview of the island, and the book room at the top was that dome that you saw in this picture at the very top of the stalagmite. That's why we presume that it's a private linking book library. However, I don't believe. Well, no, I know that isn't the Rotunda because the Rotunda has other rooms surrounding it. And
Okay, yeah, there's a rotunda on the right side of that other picture, that other sketch. Oh, there it is. Kavir's somebody's lab.
No, this was the mansion. Is where we are now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The print's kind of tiny for my middle-aged eyes.
Oh, okay.
But
Well, what they're pointing out on there, there is a water-filled area called the basin on. Let's see. North is actually, I believe, the right-hand edge. Oh, you do see something called Rakuri's lab. That's over on the north side. Because the right-hand edge of the page is north, I believe. No, I take that back. It isn't. There's north. North is marked down at the bottom.
Where are we in this particular sketch?
Somewhere about halfway to 2/3 of the way up the stalagmite.
Interesting. Very interesting.
As I mentioned at the beginning that we're around 26 stories up from the water surface.
Oh, wow.
Atris the Younger also had a sketch of the island, but his version was very different. There it is. Let's see. And so, as you can see, the version of it that Atris sketched is very different from what you saw in the other sketch.
And is that taken from the Myst game or the Riven game?
I believe this is from Myst, but I'm not positive on that one off the top of my head. No, I take that back. This is from Riven. Looking at the notes on the side.
Yeah, it mentions Riven.
It also mentions he's talking about Gin. Okay. On the western side of the island, by the way, the stairs that we climb up were not the only way to get there. If you look at the map, on the left side of the stalagmite, you'll notice that it's more or less vertical. And there's a little device hanging off the side of that. That is actually an elevator, which looks like this. It was mounted on the outside of the stalagmite and appeared to travel most of the distance from the bottom to the top, but stopped short of the highest levels. which meant that Lord Rakuri and his son Velvis were obviously much too important to have to walk up all those stairs to get to the linking book room. The island itself, going back to this map, if you look in the towards the lower right-hand side, you'll see there's an area there, and that is a water lock and a floating dock. It's a lock because the water level inside of it could be raised and lowered. Let's see if I should have a picture of, oh yeah, that was it. So this is what the harbor lock, the way it was designed. You'll see that there are two pipes off on the right-hand side. One was to let water in, and the lower one was to take water out of the lock chamber. So it could raise and lower a certain distance. Unfortunately, the notes that I have been able to find don't mention anything about why. But from the overhead sketch, it does mention that there was a floating dock and a floating bridge, which would have raised and lowered with the water level. That chamber is where the family kept private boats. I'll be stopping for questions after I finish this little section here. And then we have one other sketch of the island to show you. Let's see. There's that, there's that. Oops. Must be back the other way. Oh, here it is. Okay. This is the only other sketch that we currently have of Cavern. And while this has no captions that give a clue as to its purpose, there is an area marked on the map of Cavern that says that there's a water filtration tank located on the upper part of the map. And that's probably a side view of that tank. So they did drink the lake water, but they filtered it first. Excuse me a second. I'm in the process of being, this month, of being inundated with toll-free calls, and every time I block one, they use a different one.
No, that's Rand Miller calling to tell you you're doing a great job.
Rand Miller wouldn't be using an 888 prefix.
Oh. Well, you never know.
Okay. Anyway. So I'll pause here just for a moment. Now, were there any questions?
I didn't see any other than the birds and the lag.
Oh. Ivank is mentioned in the stream chat that Atris is calling. He wants his mansion back.
That's hilarious. Well, Atros, he was stuck there for I don't think we know how long, and
Quite a
I always
while.
wondered how he fed and nourished himself.
That's something I'll be covering.
Oh, you're kidding me. Do you really literally know everything?
No, I simply said I'll be covering the subject. I didn't say I knew anything.
Oh, okay. Alrighty. Precious. Sorry about that. I'm getting you in trouble.
Anyway, Okay, so if there were no question, Cave One was asking who the face was that I keep skipping over. I'll be getting to that. That's for, a picture for a later time. Okay, now we're going to talk about first the ballroom, which is the area that we're in right now. Because of the damage to its internal corridors, explorers who link to Kavir are unable to see most of the island. There are only 3 rooms that they can move through. The first chamber explorers link to is the ballroom, a formal space with a large picture window that looks south towards Agora Island. Let me get rid of that. Oops. And turn around. And it would help if I was pressing the right button. There we go. So as you would look out this window, we are facing south and looking directly towards Agora Island. And if the view were clear enough, you would be able to see the Arch of Kurith at the base of the stalagmite on the island. Let's see. However, ballroom is kind of a nickname for this chamber. We don't know what the room was used for by Lord Recurry or Velvis because it's completely bare save for a Nexus terminal. The ballroom has a balcony overlooking the main floor with 2 staircases leading up to it. There is an exit from the room underneath the west staircase. When you look around the room, you'll notice what seem to be a number of incomplete columns. However, those are not structural. Like the short round pillars on the floor and the pillars coming down from the ceiling are both light fixtures. Okay, let's go ahead and exit this room, and we're going to walk halfway up the stairs.
Someone had a question if we know if there's any animal life around this island.
On the island itself, no, because we just cannot get outside and see if there's anything else there. In the lake, definitely. It's filled with fish, and there are plenty of other animals in the Denis Caverns. For instance, there's a monkey-type creature which has made a home here. It's a species called a Cinemar, and she actually wound up making a bit of a pet of one of them. This is the second chamber that we can get to. It's a widened landing with windows that look into the ballroom balcony. And so you can see if there's anyone up in the balcony, and if they were there, you'd be able to talk to them through these windows. The third area we will go up to now.
I've always loved these colorful patterns on these pillars. It's really pretty.
No reason they wouldn't be when you're that rich. When you come in, go ahead and find yourself a place to sit down. If you're experiencing lag, sitting and remaining still will help with it.
The podium's probably missing because Murphak removed it. Because this is his Cavern.
By the way, the I was asked earlier about the face that I was skipping over in my pictures, and it's the one in the middle of this floor. I'll be talking about that in due course. I call this area the Rotunda. It's a circular room with 7 doors that open outward from it. We know that it's located high in the stalagmite that the mansion was carved into because of its key coordinates. It's unknown what might be found beyond most of the doors, but one opens into the corridor that descends to the ballroom. Since Atris the Younger was trapped here 3 times in his life, one of the doors most likely opened into a chamber where he slept and which must have had other necessities for living. As a guest, at least one more room probably was a storage chamber with food and water, and perhaps where he prepared his meals. Atris set up a desk and shelves in this chamber, where I'm standing, and it was here that he spent much of his time when trapped in the mansion. Why he didn't set up an office elsewhere is not explained, but it may have been because this is where the linking book from Myst Island brought people. Inlaid into the center of the rotunda floor is a tile mosaic of Rhineref, the man who led the Denis to the caverns. Rhineref was born in 2007, or 207 years before the migration to Earth. He was born on the Denis homeworld, Gartene, and was acknowledged as one of the finest writers that the Rhone ever had seen. By 59 before Denis, he was able to put some of the final touches on a descriptive book he called the Book of Earth. He had known that Gartene was becoming unable to support human life, and wrote the New Age as a place that he thought would be good to live in. Gathering several thousand followers and the supplies and equipment they would need, he moved to the caverns and became king of what he called Denis, which roughly means fresh start. His reign was relatively short for a Denis king because he died in Denis year 120 of apparent heart complications. He was 327 years old at the time. And here's where we start talking about the people who were involved with Cavern. Lord Recurry was the last owner, and he may have been named after the 17th king of Denis who shared that name. Lord Recurry was one of the 5 great lords of Denis in the years leading up to the fall. Prior to becoming a lord, Recurry was the Grand Master of the Guild of Miners. His son, Velvis, had arisen on his own merits to become a master in the Guild of Writers. Recurry owned 6 private ages, including one called Nirgemat. He became friends with Atris the Elder after Atris saved Velvis' life during an earthquake that struck the Great Shaft's opening ceremony. He even offered to become Atris' political patron, although Atris decided not to take him up on it. In Recurri's later years, he contracted an illness and was unable to attend to his duties as a great lord. More and more, his son Velvis had to fill in for him. Velvis, in the meantime, became involved with a man named Agaris, who eventually framed him for the murder of a maintainer guildsman in order to gain control of him. Lord Recurri died in 1737 by surface time. And in the same hour that the great bell in Agra rang to announce his passing, Velvis was sentenced to life in a prison age. By the way, the great lords of Denis were people chosen from 5 grandmasters of the 18 major guilds. They were, in essence, a regency that was to hold the power of the throne until the coming of the great king, who had been foretold in the Book of Urpa, a Rhone book of prophecy. King Alcindor had previously been thought to be the great king in his time. However, during the reign of King Kurith, a prophet named Gish rejected the idea and taught that the great king had not come. This became the prevailing school of thought during the reign of Kurith and held true into the era of lords. There were always 5 great lords, and they held their position for life. Whenever a great lord died, he was replaced by another grandmaster selected from one of the major guilds. The exact method used to select a great lord is unknown. When a grandmaster was appointed, he gave up his association with his former guild, and his only official title was lord. However, their guilds were proud when their leaders... Excuse me, I've got every window in the world popping up in front of me on my note computer here. Okay, sorry about that. Anyway. When a grandmaster was appointed, he gave up his association with his former guild, and his only official title was lord. However, their guilds were proud when their leaders became lords and still considered them honorary members. It wasn't uncommon for them to still be called masters by their former guildmates. The lords were not normally involved in the day-to-day business of the ruling council. By the time of the fall of Denis, the council's form had changed from the way it had been set up by King Kurith before he abdicated his throne. Masters from all 18 major guilds were appointed to the council, and they ran the day-to-day business of the empire. Technically, the great lords could vote in any meeting of the council, but in practice, they only voted if the issue was considered important or controversial, or if the voting among the 18 masters was split evenly. The original 5 great lords were selected at the direction of Kurith, and they were the entirety of the first ruling council. That continued for a time, but at some point whose date is unknown, it was decided that the great lords would assume their oversight position, and masters appointed from all 18 major guilds would make up the working council. The first great lords who were appointed by Kurith were Lord Tari of the Guild of Messengers, Lord Hemla of the Guild of Healers, Lord Moleth of the Guild of Caterers, Lord Kedri of the Guild of Writers, and Lord Koronin of the Guild of Analysts. At the time of the fall of Denis, the great lords were former grandmasters of the writers, miners, maintainers, bookmakers, and ink makers. At this time, The only one of the five whose name I know is Lord Mercury of the Miners, and Velvis, who served as his proxy when he became too ill to attend council meetings. Cavern was also the home of Velvis. Velvis was a master in the Guild of Writers. He met Atris, who would join the Guild of Surveyors, as young children while both were attending the same primary schooling before being accepted for advanced education by their respective guilds. The two did not get along very well in school, but apparently Atris left an impression on Velvis. When Atris was working with the survey team that had been assigned the job of building a tunnel to the Earth's surface, Velvis extended an olive branch by sending Atris an expensive set of surveying instruments. The two began corresponding, and their budding friendship was sealed when Atris saved Velvis' life at the ceremony for the completion of the Great Shaft. At that time, Velvis promised that Atris could ask a favor in the future, and Velvis would do anything within his power to grant it. Velvis was opposed to making contact with the surface, believing that any people there would probably be barbaric, and that colored his reaction to later events when Anna found her way to Denis. Atris's parents were assigned as Anna's guardians, and Atris fell in love with her. He began teaching her things no outsider had ever been taught before, and when Velvis found out that he was teaching her the basics of the art, he was furious. Velvis took the matter to the council, and the Guild of Maintainers confiscated the private linking books of Atris's family, which were named Koa and Gimadet. That decision was soon overturned, however, and the ages were returned to the family. Later, Atris approached the council for permission to marry Anna. Velvis was aghast at the very idea and again petitioned for the council to block it. It was then that Atris called in the favor that Velvis had promised him, and Velvis was forced to accept the marriage, which gave the swing vote in the council needed for permission to be given. However, that was the last straw for Velvis, and his shaky friendship with Atris ended right then and there. The next person that came into the story was a man named Agaris. Agaris was born in AD 1651. He was accepted by the Guild of Writers as a child and rose through the ranks until he attained the rank of master. In 1685, he became engaged to be married, but before the wedding, he was accused of several crimes. One of the accusations was that he'd stolen a linking book. Although he denied the charges, he was expelled from the guild and his engagement was broken. Angered over what he felt was a betrayal by both the guild and the woman he loved, he moved to Karathan, the sole middle-class district on Agra Island. Over the course of the next 50 years, Agaris wrote several pamphlets, including one expressing hatred towards outsiders. He eventually earned himself the nickname of the Philosopher and amassed a following. However, Agaris never forgot or forgave Denis society for the way it had treated him, and spent much of his time plotting to destroy all of it as revenge for the slights against him. It was that cast of characters that became most intimately tied with the fall of Denis. Before I move into that story, were there any questions?
I didn't see any. Does anyone have any questions for Larry? Some of this history you're taking from in the Hall of Kings, there are all these books around the periphery. Are
The
you getting a
King's
lot of this
Notebooks. Quite a bit of
Yes.
it, yes.
Okay.
Those are one of the primary sources that we have for much of the history. However, also a great deal of this comes from the book of Atris. Yeah, the book of Atris, which was one of the novels. Or no, excuse me,
Yeah.
the book of Tiana. I'm sorry. It was the book of Tiana.
And you also have a lot of this information. You have a website that's written in both English and Dunny, which is interesting and awesome. Can you type out the link for us here if you don't mind?
Okay.
The Floristica.
Yeah. It's FFORESTCA dot
When y'all get a chance, make sure you check it out. It's just got an abundance of information, fascinating information.
Shiloh O'Brien, says the books in the Hall of Kings, were they direct translations or summaries of research by the DRC? It's the latter. That's DRC research. They're basically reports by the DRC on various kings. Okay, continuing with our story. Sometime after his falling out with Atris, another of Velvis' friends named Swarner, who was a member of the Guild of Maintainers, introduced him to Agaris. Velvis was skeptical of the man, but kept in contact with him. Seeing possibilities in having Velvis indebted to him, Agaris decided to engineer a situation in which Velvis would be forced to become reliant upon him. He forged several documents in Velvis' handwriting that implicated him in a trade of illegal linking books. Agaris then gave the papers to Atris, who in turn presented them to the Denis Council. That done, he then stole a very distinctive dagger belonging to Velvis and used it to murder a member of the Guild of Maintainers, leaving the easily identifiable knife near the scene of the crime. His efforts to frame Velvis were successful, and Velvis was stripped of his rank and positions and sentenced to live the rest of his life in a prison age. About 5 years later, Agaris and Swarner stole the linking book to the prison age and linked to it carrying a return book. Free from exile, Velvis was bitter with the Denis Council for his wrongful conviction. Thus, he willingly joined with Agaris and Swarner, which had been Agaris' plan all along. Velvis teamed up with them to commit several terrorist acts, including the bombing of an important ink-making facility and the desecration of one of Denis' 5 classic books by forging Talashar's handwriting in it. Talashar was a guildmaster who had written the classic over 6,000 years before. Unfortunately for Agaris and Velvis, Tiana discovered the age they were using as a base not very long after the Inkwork bombing. She managed to destroy all their spare linking books that Swarner had provided and captured Velvis. Agaris had no choice but to flee to another age, where he had forced the natives to be slaves. Once again, Velvis was put on trial, and that time the council debated imposing a death sentence on him. That was a very rare occurrence in Denis history. Anna was present at the trial as a witness, and was given permission to speak as an involved party. She used the chance to plead for mercy for Velvis. Because of her successful intervention, he was once again sentenced to a prison age. To prevent another escape, the council decreed that the age's descriptive book would be burned after he linked there. As might be guessed, Agaris had no intention of losing such a useful patsy. Once again, he rescued Velvis from exile, this time by having one of his maintainer followers swap the book to the prison age with a linking book to a safe location. The real prison age book was then switched back and burned as ordered. Velvis was brought back to Denis, and he and Agaris began using Cavern as a base of operations where they refined their plans for the destruction of Denis. The plan that they put into action was to use the ventilation system that brought fresh air into the caverns from the surface world. They released a combination of deadly plague germs mixed with poison gas. Wearing sealed maintainer suits, they then collected infected bodies and linked with them into as many ages as they could find. After the deed was done, and with most of the Denis citizens dead, Agaris ordered Velvis to deliberately write an inhabited age in which the two could reign as gods. That violated the most sacred rules of the art that the Guild of Maintainers the Guild of Writers followed, and Velvis refused. As he turned to leave, Agaris stabbed him in the back and left him to die. On his way to his boat to return to Cavern, Agaris stumbled across Anna and her son Gen, and took them along as his prisoners in the hope that he could lure Atris there. Atris found Velvis where Agaris had left him. Before he passed away, Velvis told Atris what Agaris was trying to do and gave him the descriptive book of Edorat, an age where Agaris kept a library of linking books. That information gave Atris an idea of how to defeat Agaris once and for all. During his time wandering between the age of Koa or Gemedet, I forget which one that they had retreated to, and exploring the Denis Cavern trying to find survivors, Atris had been exposed to the disease that had been spread along with the poison gas. He knew he was sick and that he was going to die and that there was no hope for a cure. Because of that, he was determined to make his death count. Working quickly, he modified Edorat and altered it to link to an age composed of molten rock. Once that was done, he linked to Cavern and burned all of the books Agaris and Velvis had kept there. When Agaris arrived, Atris used the altered Edorat book after threatening to destroy all the books Agaris kept there. His trick worked, and in a panic, Agaris abandoned Anna and Gen and followed him into the trap book without realizing that it wasn't the same. Both men perished soon after arrived in that hellish age. Atris's last words to Anna were a coded message that he was about to die. Because of that, Anna took Gen and traveled back to the surface to live in the cleft. Gen never knew that his father had deliberately sacrificed himself to save them, and forever after assumed that his mother had simply abandoned Atris to an unknown fate. Okay, do we have any questions about that part?
I did not see any.
Then the next part of the story of Cavern involves Gen, the son of Anna and Atris. After the fall of Denis, Anna took Gen to the surface to live, since there was nothing left for them in Denis. Atris had given her the warning that he was about to die in the form of a sentence that he knew that only she would understand, so that she wouldn't try to follow him and be killed in turn. Anna and Gen lived in the cleft until Gen turned 14 in the year 1750. Gen wrongfully blamed Anna for the fall of Denis and thought that she had abandoned his father, so after his birthday, he left her to wander the world alone. Not very much is known about his journey, but he found a mysterious people called the Ahmad living somewhere along the way, and he chose to stay among them. There he met and fell in love with a girl named Keita, but whom he called Lyra. The pair married in 1751 after a whirlwind romance. Keita became pregnant in 1755, and it soon became obvious that there was something desperately wrong. Despite reservations about returning, Gen took Keita to the cleft, hoping that his mother's knowledge of Denis medicine could ease her through the birth of their child. However, Anna was unable to save Keita, although she did rescue the newborn son. Angry and despondent over the death of his wife, 19-year-old Gen abandoned his son and left on yet another journey. At some point along that journey, he acquired a servant named Ryjas. This time, he followed Anna's path back down to Denis and took up residence in Cavern while he explored the caverns and ages. He gathered up blank books and a few descriptive books to use as examples, and began trying to teach himself how to write. He had been a member of a guild when he was a child in Denis, but he was an apprentice of the Guild of Books, so while he had some basic knowledge of how books were constructed, he knew nothing of the art and had to teach himself. His chosen method was to copy passages from different descriptive books, throw them together, and see what resulted. In 1769, Gen decided that having more help with his projects would be useful, so he traveled back to the surface to collect his son, who had been named Atris after Gen's father. Atris turned out to have a talent for the art, and 4 years later, he wrote his first successful age, which he called Inception. Gen decided to hold a Korfa Vijay, a Denis term meaning first book celebration. To the Denis, a Korfa Vijay was held after a young writer presented his master's piece to the guild to prove he completed his training and was ready to be granted permission to write ages for actual use instead of just for practice. It was around that time that Atris began to learn that his father was a madman, because Gen insisted that the Korfa Vijay was a ceremony that conferred godhood on the writer. Gen's praise for Atris didn't last. All too soon, it gave way to jealousy that Atris had written a stable age, something that still eluded Gen. In his anger, he burned the book for Inception. After that, Atris decided to leave and return to the surface to live with Anna again. He packed some supplies and started the journey, but Gen and Ryjas caught him before he got very far. As punishment, Atris was locked here in Cavern's Rotunda for the first time. With him was the descriptive book of Riven, Gen's fifth age, which Gen placed there to see if Atris could correct the flaws that were tearing it apart. While that was the first time Atris would be trapped here, it would not be the last. In AD 1806, Atres's sons, Cyrus and Achenar, tried to get rid of their parents to keep them from discovering their attempts to build personal empires in the ages Atres had written. First, they forged a letter from Atres asking Catherine to go to Riven. She did, expecting that Atres would join her there. Then they sabotaged the Myst linking book that was kept here in Cavern, and forged a letter from Catherine asking Atres to join her there, trapping Atres in Cavern yet again. Atres attempted to escape, but failed. One attempt was when he rigged an explosive charge and tried to blow open the door into the corridor. That only made things worse when it caused a cave-in that blocked the door off entirely. With the Riven book his only avenue out, and knowing that traveling to Riven would be a one-way trip, Atres remained in Cavern and worked on stabilizing Riven. He was betting that if he could keep the age from falling apart long enough, Catherine would be able to do something from her end. That was what he was doing when, in the events that took place in October, November, and December of that year, the stranger found him and rescued Catherine. The last actor to take the stage in Cavern was Yesha, daughter of Atres. She used Cavern as a way station in her version of the Path of the Shell, and then again as a starting and ending point for the quest to control the golden tablet of the Ballroom. A linking book to Myst Island had remained there ever since Atres was first brought it there, and that book ended up being used by both Yesha and Escher, a Denis survivor. After learning the Ballroom linking art, Yesha believed that she was ready to take on the quest for the tablet, which was somehow the key to the bondage of the Ballroom to Denis. Having grown arrogant due to her talent and abilities, she approached the task with complete confidence that she would succeed. She managed to get the locked pedestal holding the tablet to appear in a space-time bubble in the Ballroom of Cavern. After traveling to various ages to locate 4 controlling minor tablets, she seized the master tablet and attempted to use it. However, she did so selfishly and was found to be unworthy and lost her ability to touch it. Yesha became equally angry and repentant after her failure to unlock the tablet. It taught her in no uncertain terms that she was not as great as she had come to believe. Her reaction was bipolar. In some days, she raged about her failure, and on others, she took the loss more humbly. This is reflected in one of the speeches she recorded to be played in a Ballroom cave in the ceiling of the Rotunda cavern. But even in this moment of brutal honesty, she had to throw in the claim that the Denis shared her failings on a grander scale. After her failure, the quest to control the tablet became known to a Denis survivor named Escher, who had taken refuge from the fall of Denis in an age called Nolobin. Escher was one of a number of people who believed that he could be the grower that had been foretold in the pages of Words, a book of prophecy written by a man called the Watcher. He too completed the quest and tried to control the tablet, and in so doing failed to gain mastery of it. Yesha and Escher both mentioned that many people had tried taking the quest with equally poor results, although it's not said whether those people preceded or followed them. Unable to use the tablet again, Yesha created a plan in which individual Ballroom would draw people to the cavern as a vehicle for their liberation. To this end, she gathered a number of Denis descriptive books and modified them, and had her Ballroom followers place special journey cloths and linking stones in those ages, along with a number of pictographs and carvings. Her plan was semi-successful. Each person who completed her Path of the Hand quest set an individual borrow free from its slavery. However, this was not enough. Not everyone who was called responded. Not all who responded completed the quest she had created. She became enraged by the length of time it was taking for the borrow as a whole to be released. A second chance came in 2005 when Dr. Richard A. Watson, who had finally decided to follow her footsteps in an effort to truly understand Denis, took the quest for the Master Tablet. Having learned to distrust her own motives, Yisha gave him no help beside a cryptic initial speech and some notebooks and recordings scattered in the great shaft. When he succeeded in completing the quest and gave the tablet to the borrow, Yisha considered her burden lifted. She went to Relishan, where she was reunited with her father. As of 2007, she was still alive and working with the freed borrow. And supposedly, Dr. Watson was given the right to take up residence in Relishan. Okay, and that's pretty much everything that I had to say about Kavir. Did we have any questions in the meantime?
Yes, I've been trying to keep them at bay and answer questions. I mean, there's not a flood of. I have questions too, but it's already 12:15 key time, so I'm sure we have to get moving. Real quick, the swinging lamps, those are just a result of natural tremors, right? Because we're deep underground?
Correct.
Okay.
In Myst 5, Kavir is shown to be unstable and prone to earthquakes.
Yes, and I recall that we can actually hear like the sounds of rumbling as well.
Correct.
And that sort of segues in the other quick thing you can confirm. This area was seen in Myst, Riven, and Myst 5. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
This is the same.
And then,
this is the same room, and this one space ties pretty much the entire series together.
yes. And then someone asked earlier if they had vents to the surface, why did they need to drill the tunnel? I'm assuming it's so they could move back and forth.
What had happened when Denis was first founded, the very first project they had, because they had thousands of people who needed to breathe, was to dig air vents up to the surface. They were vertical vents, and after that, the Denis basically left them alone to do their job. It had never been the intention of Rinaref for the Denis to ever go to the surface world. They had his intention was that Denis would be a place that they would live in deliberately harsh conditions, so that they would appreciate the ages that they wrote and linked to all the more. But that said, when the when the vents were completed, a number of the workers who had been digging them disappeared, and it's presumed that they probably got a look at the surface and decided, the heck with this living underground stuff.
And that's what they said, quote unquote, to heck with this. Just
And
kidding.
so and there is a school of thought that the Ahmad people that Gen stumbled across may have been descendants of theirs.
Ah. And then someone just asked in Twitch, how did the Denny get there in the first place to the cavern? We
It
know
was
that
an age.
Atris. Oh, it was an. Okay, it was an age. Well, she's
Yes.
referring to the cavern.
Right. The cavern. Rinaref wrote an age called the Book of Earth, which was the Denis Cavern,
Oh
the
my
first one,
gosh. That
and
never occurred to me.
and that's what they linked through the book to the cavern. They later spread out from it into other caverns that were naturally occurring, some large, some small.
And then when Atrus, Atrus, wanted to get back here, he came through the caldera in the volcano, right? The dormant volcano.
What happened there is that Anna had discovered an entrance which had been caused by tectonic activity. It was basically a rift or naturally forming cave that actually broke into the upper tunnels around the Great Shaft. But the Great Shaft itself, at least in Myst 5, is shown to be very nearly directly underneath the volcano in the Cleft volcano. And when Atrus was young, he wanted to provide electricity for the cleft. But his initial idea, was to generate electricity via steam power from fumaroles in the volcano and use that to charge batteries. It wasn't until much later that they put in the windmill and generator that's there now.
Yeah, and I think there are sketches of those batteries in the cleft.
Yes, there is.
On the
Actually,
walls.
not the battery, but the generator.
The generator.
And what happened though is that when he capped off a fumarole with the generator, he got the tolerances wrong. The whole thing locked up, and the pressure that built up from the steam collecting underground blew a hole, which which actually gave an alternative way to get into the Great Shaft. And it was that when Gen first went down to Denis, he used Anna's entrance. But later, when he came back and found out that there was a closer entrance in the volcano, that's the way that he took Atrus to get there.
Very interesting. So, did you, at the outset, when I was logging in, did you tell him where we're going last for this 24-month set of tours?
No, they're going to find out where the second location is when we go there.
Okay, for those of us who've been on most, if not all, the tours, can any of you guess where we're going last?
Don't think we quite have time for the guessing games at this point, though.
Okay. No, it's okay.
So let's find out.
It's okay. It's sort of a test.
Murphak, if you would please, link us to our last destination.
Woohoo! Give her a cookie. Back to the beginning.
Once we get to,
go ahead.
Say, now that the cat's out of the bag, yes, we're going to go to the Myst library for the next and final part of the lecture. Once we get there, you'll want to pay attention to the stream window. Although we'll be trying to, if we can, we'll show you something there.
I can't believe we've been doing this for 24 months.
It has dragged on. Oh, let's see. While we're waiting for Murphak to get set up, that picture of Renaref is actually a former employee of Cyan. I forget his name off the top of my head. But they took a picture of one of their employees and used that as the inspiration for Renaref's face.
Is there anyone besides me who's played the entire Myst series? Myst, Riven, etc.
Not I.
Exile, Revelation, End of Ages.
I've played everything except Myst 4 because the way that they chose to control that game and make everything work was aggravating at best and impossible for me at worst. So when I got to the Mangri puzzle and the crystal puzzle, I could never get past them because those darned controls were just
Oh.
yeah, they were just impossible for me to get through.
Did you get through the bird ride?
No, what happened is that I wound up watching the rest of it on somebody else's replay,
Oh, wow.
and as it turned out that yeah, I agree, Carol. But the cat as it turned out. I'm not at all sorry that I missed the dream puzzles.
Oh, the color clouds.
Yeah, where you have to sort out the memory.
I love that puzzle. Sometimes I'll save the game right before the puzzle and just do it over and over. I don't know, I like the noises they make when they change colors. I'm easy to please.
Murphy, are you with us? He was on the phone call before I. Oh, there we go. Okay, just pull up a stretch near the wall and have a seat.
This area is so nostalgic. If not claustrophobic.
It's nostrophobic.
Oh, goodness. Okay, why am I rooted in place? Oh, no, I'm not. Sorry.
Okay.
If
Now-
everyone could sit down, please. I think it'll be easier to see everything.
Well, it'll cut the lag. One of the things that in Uro Complete Chronicles, there was a puzzle where you had to get a combination for the fireplace puzzle, which does more or less work in this version of Myst. And it brought up a recipe for Denide eggs as the reward for having solved the problem. Murphak, can you make that visible? We'll see if he's able to or not. In any case, to do something a little bit different, I am going to do this. Oops. I need to move you and up. Okay, that's on. So if you will pay attention to the stream window, we'll take a look outside the library. Oh, I see. What Murphak is doing, by the way, is he's using Jalak pillars to allow you to exit the room so that you can go and take a look at the page that has the Dened eggs recipe on it. So we get, but in the meantime, Myst Island was written somewhere around AD 1773 or 1774 by Atris' grandmother Anna, with assistance from Catrin of Riven. It was written as a home and refuge from Gen, who had become a megalomaniac. In 1773, Atris the Younger had been taken to Dened by his father Gen to become his apprentice and learn the art as Gen understood it. That same year, Atris wrote Inception, which was, of course, destroyed by Gen. Realizing that his father was insane, Atris attempted to run away and return to the Cleft, but he was caught by Gen and his servant Ryjas before he got very far. Anna had followed them to Dened after Gen took Atris there, but had remained hidden from them all. When Atris was imprisoned in Kavir with the descriptive book of Riven, Anna decided to confront Gen about it. However, when she arrived at his office in Kavir, Gen was not there. Instead, she found Catrin, one of Gen's Rivenese apprentices, in the office, and the two quickly became friends. The pair would both work on the Myst descriptive book in time, but Catrin eventually had to link back to Riven before Gen grew suspicious. Later that year, Atris decided that he would link to Riven since it was his only way out of the chamber in Kavir where he was trapped. While there, he met and fell in love with Catrin, but to her frustration, he began calling her Catherine instead of her real name. By the way, he never did use her real name, despite the many times she tried to correct him, and eventually she just gave up and endured it. As a side note, he was unknowingly following what had become something of a family tradition that started with his grandfather, Atris the Elder. When Atris the Elder fell in love with Anna, he decided to give her a Dened version of her name and called her Tiana, which meant storyteller in the Dened language, since she loved to tell stories about the surface world. Their son Gen met a woman named Keta and married her when he was traveling around the surface world, but he called her Lyra. After the Book of Myst had been completed, Atris and Catrin conducted a daring raid on Gen's offices and laboratories and destroyed all of the linking and descriptive books that were being kept in Riven. After they succeeded in their mission, Catrin escaped using a Myst linking book held by Atris. Atris then jumped into the Starfisher with the book before using it to link as well. Atris stated in one of his journals that he had hoped the linking book would be destroyed so that no one could ever use it to follow them. Instead, it survived its trip through the fissure intact, which turned out to be a very good thing later. Atris Katrin and Tiana lived together on Myst for a year before the couple married in January of 1776. It may have been something of a shotgun wedding. Their first son, Akinar, was born that same year. A second son, Cyrus, was born 2 years later in 1778. The small family lived happily on the island for another 8 years before personal disaster struck them. In 1786, Katrin wrote A New Age. Tiana linked to it to explore, and while there contracted an unknown disease. After a protracted illness, she died and was buried on the island by Atris. And let's go take a look at her burying, her grave marker. Oops. Let's see.
If I recall correctly, this grave marker is not visible in the original Myst. It's
That's
only
correct.
available in Real Myst and the... what's the name of the other Myst?
It's available in the Myst 5 version as well.
Okay.
And this is the latest version of Myst, and the marker has... in other versions, her name was written in or Roman characters, but in this version of Myst, it's written in Denis. Also, in the Myst 5 version, her grave is surrounded by blue flowers, which were her favorite. Anna's death set a chain of events in motion that tore the family apart. Atris wrote over 100 ages while here on the Myst Island, although we only saw the books for a small number of them. In March of 1806, Atris discovered that someone was burning the descriptive books of his ages. Only 4 books in the Myst library had survived, and he hid them to prevent their destruction. He set out 2 new books for ages called Spire and Haven as a trap for whoever the culprit might be, and warned his sons not to touch them. On the 14th of that month, his sons showed their true colors by tricking Katrin into returning to her home age of Riven, where she eventually was captured by Gin. That same day, they tricked Atris into linking to Kavir after sabotaging the Myst linking book he had kept there. After that, the boys each linked to one of the forbidden books and became trapped themselves. On December 11th of 1806, a stranger found the Myst linking book that had been lost in the Starfisher and began his or her journey into the ages that Atris had written. The stranger would go on to free both Atris and Katrin. In the decade following their rescue by the stranger, Atris and Catherine abandoned Myst because it reminded them of the betrayal, cruelty, and greed of their sons. Instead, Atris wrote a new home age called Chroma Agana, and they moved there in January 2nd of 1807. He and Catherine lived there while he wrote new ages, one of which was called Averon, and he enlisted the people of that age to assist him in clearing the rubble that prevented him from leaving the Rotunda of Kavir and getting to the rest of Denis. During this time, he decided to search for survivors of the fall and to aid them in rebuilding their city in the caverns. Eventually, although he was able to locate a large number of Denis, the project ultimately failed, and it was decided that any further attempt at reviving Denis would be abandoned. They settled for collecting the remains of the dead citizens from the fall and burying them. Since revolving Denis was thought to be futile, Atris decided to write a new home for the Denis. The age he wrote was called Relishan, which means the whole in Denis. Atris chose the name in honor of Anna, who had told him that when he was writing a new age, he had to keep an eye on the whole picture of it. In 1814, Atris and Catherine moved to the last home they would share, a canyon in New Mexico that Atris named Tomana, which simply means home in Denis. It was within fairly easy traveling distance of the cleft. A year later, in 1815, their last child was born, a daughter they named Yisha, which means laughter in Denis. Yisha had a fairly happy childhood, but that ended when her brothers escaped from their prison ages and Cyrus tried to rip her mind out of her body. She was never the same after that, and in 1832, she left Tomana on a journey of self-discovery. Sometime during her wandering, she may have visited Myst Island, and for whatever reason decided she hated the place. The Myst linking book in Kavir remained there and was discovered by Escher sometime before 2004. In 2005, he attempted to lure Dr. Watson to Myst to trap him, but was unsuccessful in his plot. At that time, the island appeared to have fallen into decay and perhaps had been vandalized by Yisha, Escher, or both. Myst consists mainly of one large island with a smaller rock outcrop where the clock tower stands. The island is relatively flat with a large rocky hill at one end. And let's go ahead and give you a better look of that. There is no beach, only a rocky coastline. Myst also possesses a natural cave, which Atris used to house electrical power generators. And since I'm showing you the Myst, the 2021 version of Myst here, I may as well take you down there real quick.
Yeah, this is the 25th anniversary version, is that correct?
Correct. This is the latest version of Myst. And this is where Atris parked his power plant for the island.
Are we able to get into Cyrus and Akinar's psyches at all and ascertain why they were so hostile to their father?
It wasn't so much that they were hostile to their father. What Cyrus and Akinar had been... Well, Cyrus had always been ambitious. Akinar was the relative innocent of the two. Until one day, they linked to Stone Ship and set out in a small boat on the sea. Akinar didn't know why they were doing it, but the reason why he took Akinar out there was that he was looking to find the pirates of the Black Ships. This story was covered in a very short-lived comic book series by Dark Horse Comics, Myst, the Black Ships. And they were captured by the pirates, but Cyrus managed to get in good with the pirate chieftain who adopted them as honorary sons, and it was under the tutelage of the pirates that Cirrus greed was cultivated, and Achenar learned to enjoy the hunt and the kill. But the thing that and this basically happened because after the death of Anna, Atreus basically abandoned his family. He buried himself in his work on his ages and didn't pay any attention to them whatsoever. In the meantime, Catherine blamed herself for the death of Anna because she had written the age where Anna caught the disease that killed her. And she, too, became rather withdrawn and standoffish toward the sons. So it was because of neglect that they started looking for other avenues. And they more, I guess you could say that they were seeking attention. But what became the issue with between the sons and Atreus was that the sons were using his ages in order to try and build themselves their own private empires. And they wanted to learn how to write new ages of their own. But Atreus wouldn't teach them. He had set up oh goodness, so Myst 3 Exile. What was the guy's name off the top? I forget off the top of my head. Anyway.
Oh, Savidro?
Yeah, Savidro. He hired a man named Savidro to act as a tutor for the boys and set up a number of training ages which were meant to give, each one was meant to give a different lesson as a foundation before he taught them how to write. But the boys were impatient with that, and basically wound up trapping Savidro on the main island of the tutorial ages, and so and that led, of course, to the events of Myst 4, when, in order to after they were trapped in the prison ages, Cirrus came up with an idea that if he could transfer his mind into Yesha's body, he would be able to trick Atreus into teaching what he thought was his daughter how to write. And that was the whole point behind trapping her mind in Dream and trying to transfer his consciousness into her body. Okay. Anyway, explorers who played the Myst game have always wondered where the family lives, since there's no sign of bedrooms or any other quarters. The reason why they're never found is because the living areas are underground and were accessed by taking the library elevator down to the quarters. And that's an option that was left out of the game as being unnecessary. Okay, so now the ship, of course, when you first meet it, or you first link into the age, the ship is submerged and cannot be gotten into. After it was raised, a book linking to the stone ship age was found. Atreus wrote the age to see if he could create a complex man-made object in it just by writing. That experiment turned out to be a failure. It was Stone Ship that taught him a rule of the art that the Denis had always known. When writing an age, They never tried to specify man-made objects or buildings in it. The results were unpredictable at best and could be disastrous at worst. The library, of course, is the central building on Myst Island, and in it, Atris stored the descriptive books and journals about all the ages he wrote. Of course, in 1806, he found that the books were being burned, and he knew that it had to be one of his two sons doing it, but didn't know which. What he didn't know is that it was both. They had been committing serious crimes in the ages and burned them to prevent him from seeing what they had done. Atris managed to save the books of Channelwood, Mechanical Rhyme, Selenitic, and Stoneship by hiding them in locked locations. And it was then that he wrote the two new books, Haven and Spire, to discover the culprit. He had believed that only the guilty son would be trapped in one of the ages, and he'd have his answer. Instead, his sons tricked Katrin into going to Riven and Atris to Cavern, which started the whole chain of events that the stranger was needed to unravel. The Planetarium, which is this building over here, shows the night sky in Stoneship Age on any date and time from the year 0 through the year 9999. The cabin and the tree are used as machines to access Channelwood. The cabin has a safe and steam-powered hydraulic system to move the tree up and down. Whether or not it is a real tree is an open question, because it obviously doesn't have a root system, since it has to be elevated and lowered. So it's entirely possible that that tree might be artificial. The rocket is a spaceship on a pedestal, of course. And the key to unlocking or linking to Selenetic through it is a puzzle based on an instrument called a harmonium, which is found inside the spaceship. And the last chamber that you can get into is a 4-chamber on the dock, which is called the message chamber. And that, of course, is down here. Just to let you know what all was lost, here's the names of ages that were in the Myst library but were destroyed by the brothers. They were Amateria, excuse me, that one did survive. That's where Savidra was trapped. Ancam, Aramaro, Aspermere, Averone, Adana, Everdunes, Gravitation, Haven, Heralding, Jananin. Oh no, that's actually that one may be that. Narayan, which is where Savidra was from. Oasis, Osmoyan, Serenia, Serenol, Shamar, Spire, The Tide, Voltaic, and White Rock. By the way, some trivia items. Myst Island was named after the Jules Verne novel The Mysterious Island. Richard A. Watson explained that the real Myst Island and several other ages was much larger than it appears in the game. Certain locations were not included because they were not needed to advance the story or make it playable. An example, of course, is the elevator in the tower would have gone down to where the family's living quarters were. And now here's a new thing that was only recently revealed. Ryan Miller mentioned just this year that the word age had a very different meaning when Rand and he were planning Myst. The 5 ages visited in the Myst game were all made using roughly the same landmass and shape. That's because they had envisioned all of them being Myst Island in different epochs. So ages meant time periods. The ages of Myst. And linking was a form of time travel, not teleportation. When they dropped the time travel idea, they kept the word ages as their name for the places linked to by the books, even though it was no longer related to that. Channelwood is supposed to be Myst Island, where the sea waters have permanently risen to cover almost all of the island. Mechanical is an age in which seawater has risen, but certain parts of it are still above the surface. To give you an example, the place where the gear that you go into to get to mechanical is the place where you end up when you arrive in mechanical. Selenitic is the island that most closely resembles Myst. The player arrives in almost the exact location where they left. And in Stone Ship, only the central spire is left, and the ship is basically attached to it. Floods have forced that, and supposedly that ship may have originally been the one that's floating next to the dock, broken in two.
Larry, do you remember when the Myst 25th anniversary edition was released?
Couple months ago, I think.
I think it wasn't it last 1 or 2 years ago?
Well, I'm talking about the one that was I was just showing you the one that was released this year, a few months ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Not okay. Oh, I was getting mixed up. No, that isn't the 25th anniversary edition. It's the 2021 edition.
I didn't know there was one.
Oh, then you need to go to Steam or Good Old Games and do some shopping.
I know. Thank you. And Cyan's not paying you to say that.
I wish they were. Yes. So, here, let me bring that back up for you, because I will show you. Oops, not Kafir. Here we go. This one. And bring that back up. Resume. Because let me show you, for instance, Cyan, of course, has done a great many videos talking about how they made this. But if you look at these wooden steps leading up there, notice that they're all, for the most part, quite different from each other. And look at the detail. And then as we go up, this, by the way, was optimized for VR. Now, if you look at the painting here, notice that instead of touching the painting to get it to change, you have a pull handle underneath. Another thing is that you'll notice that there are what look like paint marks on it. But watch what happens if I pull the handle. Notice that the paint marks don't move. Instead, the image is supposed to be something being projected on it from the back, like a video camera or a video screen. And another one is that to prevent sickness, if you go up in the elevator, remember in the original Myst that this would twist in a half circle on the way up?
Yes.
Now it's straight up and down.
Interesting.
And that's to help prevent you from feeling sick in VR.
Oh yes, virtual reality.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Oh, Larry's hugging someone's legs.
How the heck did I wind up in the middle of the room? I was sitting at one of the edges.
Murphic, I think, has been playing a practical joke on us, not literally, but he's been moving us around quite a bit since you were lecturing, and you had the Twitch screen up to something else.
Okay, that's. Whoops! I just crashed. Oh well.
Uh-oh.
And not the game. I mean, I tried moving and I linked out.
Well, it's 1300.
Yep, and that is the official end of the tour. I've said everything there that I wanted to say. The only thing that I need to show you now is. If you look at the stream window, I now have the, or I should have. Yeah. Today's event schedule should be up.
Yes, it is. We've got karaoke. Well, actually, Arte, he and I have been PMing each other. For his story night, starting at 1400, they're doing a Borrow Glyph tour, which actually is going to start in Mirabot's Hood. And so I've already corresponded with Mirfac. He's going to be making sure that Mirabot's moved to his hood before 1400. That'll be very interesting. And at 1600...
You'll hear a different take on it from mine.
Yes. And then... at 1600, there's the usual karaoke, which is in the New Messengers pub. And then at 23:30 tonight is another story night, which may or may not be the exact same thing that he's doing this afternoon. And I don't know how much you said about hostessing or what you said about next month.
I did mention that I'm kind of intending to have the Myst 5 Aegis.
You know what? I couldn't hear you.
I did mention that I was kind of intending to do what I could of the Myst 5 Aegis.
Okay, and that would just be by Twitch stream then?
That's correct. Although I do, people would want to meet up in the hood for chat purposes.
Okay, so let's go ahead. I'll give out the date for that. That would be the second Saturday in January. I'm flipping over to my calendar. That would, well, wait a sec. Let's see. We discussed this last time. It's likely the Guild of Messengers will move the AGM from January 1st to
They're
January
supposed
8th.
to hold that an hour after I finish up the tour.
Okay,
Last time I heard.
so we're gonna go ahead and keep your Twitch tour, and people should show up here as well for
Correct.
Saturday, January 8th at 11 a.m. 11 key time. Then,
Mm-hmm.
okay. And as far as hostessing, as I mentioned, I'm willing to continue. It's just that I can't guarantee that I'm here for every second Saturday for as long as Larry continues this, and also into the next season, which will be determined by Larry.
Actually, it'll be determined more by Murphac than me.
And that's what I was going to mention. Determined by Larry pursuant to his correspondence with Murphac, who's incredibly busy still and in demand. Murphac has the only bot in the game at this time, and he's much in demand.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as volunteering to be a backup hostess, should people contact you through the Facebook page? Is that the easiest way to be in touch?
Yes, because well, if you can also go to the Myst Online or Alive Facebook group, because
Okay, let me type that out.
Yeah.
Myst Online Live. I'm getting an IM that someone's interested.
Mm-hmm. And
that would be.
And you,
go ahead.
I say I check that every day. So.
Okay. Ravinica Nevermore is saying that he or she would be interested in hostessing, which is awesome. So I don't want to consume time right now to deal with it, but Ravinica, do you have access to the Facebook group that I just typed in there, and you can correspond with Larry through there?
I also, in its history, have a message posted, as you recall.
Yes.
That lists some of the things that are required.
Yeah, I don't think you mentioned Skype, did you?
Oh no, I didn't. But Skype is easy if you have the other things.
Yeah, Larry and Murphac and I communicate through Skype during the tour. So I think we'll be able to have some playtime.
Yep, people are welcome to stay here and mess around until they get bored with it.
Yes, but Mirabot is needed for Arte's tour story night at 1400.
That just means that if you crash or link out for whatever reason, you won't be able to get back to it.
Yes. Well, thank you everyone so much for coming. This has been so much fun. I don't know how burnout Larry is, but oh my goodness, he puts so much work into this. You wouldn't believe. I know I've mentioned that before.
I mentioned a few of the things that I do in that advertisement for the host.
Yes. And I hope you're not too burnt out. And Murphac, oh my goodness, all the work he puts into this is just incredible. Can we all give them a round of applause? Does anyone have any last minute questions before we adjourn? Alrighty, sounds like we don't. Thank you again for coming.
And now Murphac gets to take a break for a while, and I'll be seeing everyone next month.
And Merry Christmas / Happy Holidays to all of you.
Mm-hmm.
For me and the birds.
From all of us, birds included.
Birds included. Oh, and my dog, my Cocker Spaniel.
I think that's the one animal in your house we haven't heard. Okay. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn. So thank you all for being here, and I'll see you next month. Bye bye.